special history segment just for your club.
Thank you.
Oh, yes. All of the other clubs will be envious, of course. But we have a very special reason for wanting to do that, because there was one member of your club when we came to you to talk about history that made a wonderful presentation to the city of Grand Prairie, and that's going to unfold as we do our interview. But I believe we'll start with probably the most past of the past presidents that we have here today. Mickey Turner, it's wonderful to have you on the dais again.
Thank you.
And as a past president of Nottingham, you're going to have lots to say about it a little bit later on in the interview. But we wanted to recognize you first because it's a protocol to always do that. And next we would have Mrs. Prairie. Oh, it is so wonderful to have what we call the immediate past president, and Betty Prairie is so immediate that she has really not turned over all of the reins to our new incoming president. But Pauline Alvis, we'd like to welcome you as the new incoming president of Nottingham Neighbors. And seated next to me is a very wonderful lady that, on behalf of the Nottingham Neighbors, did make a presentation to us. Dorothy Cross, we are so excited to welcome you to the dais today, and because of you, we're all here today, and isn't that wonderful? And we're going to tell your story in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Ruthie. I'm happy to be here. I'm glad you asked me.
Wonderful. All right. We've been doing great things in Nottingham Neighbors apparently for years, but before we get to your gift, let's start out with some of the probably the philanthropic things that you have done. And I know that's been important, but before that, Mickey Turner, look into your camera and tell them, when you began your Nottingham Neighbors, what were you? Just a group of ladies?
A group of ladies in a brand new neighborhood that decided to get together and have coffee and get better acquainted.
Would you let everyone in our viewing audience that may not know the location of Nottingham, approximately where you're located in northwest Grand Prairie?
Well, it is northwest, and it's north of I-30. I guess you would go out Carrier to 19th, and we're kind of hid back in the trees.
Oh, that's great.
We're a special area with a special people there.
A special people that really care about your neighborhood.
We really care.
All right. Well, let's go now to Mrs. Prairie. And Mrs. Prairie is such a very special lady in that Mrs. Prairie's husband and I have had a sort of a friendship affair for a long, long time, and that she has tolerated and endorsed because they are very wonderful people, business people here in the city of Grand Prairie, and I've known them through those avenues. Would you tell us about your immediate past presidency and anything that you want to tell about Nottingham Neighbors, Betty?
Well, of course, this past year has been a fantastic year. The people are so great to work with. And I think the one thing I would like to tell you about Nottingham that's very, very important to me is, you know, my husband is handicapped.
Yes.
And it's the most secure feeling living in Nottingham and knowing that if I ever need any help or Jay ever needed any help, that I could just pick up the directory, pick a name, whether I knew him or not, and I could call him and help would be at my door. And that's so phenomenal for a neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And to me, that is the most important part of, well, I can't say the most, but it is a very secure part of being a Nottingham neighbor.
True camaraderie.
Right.
Oh, that is wonderful. When you were asked to be the president of Nottingham, was it with apprehension, or were you very glad to pull this group of ladies together?
Well, of course, you're always glad to do this, but yes, with, you know, can I do a good job? These are such great ladies. But what makes the job easy is the fact that they are such great ladies, and everybody pitches in, and it's really not a hardship. And you can't say that for all the offices that you hold.
That is true.
That it is not a hardship sometimes.
That's
so.
Right.
And Pauline's going to find this too. She's going to enjoy her year just like I did.
And when you saw the year slipping away, you said, "Where has all the time
You
gone?"
know it.
Yes.
You know it.
And what is the most successful thing that happened during this year of your reign, so to speak?
Well, I think the most successful thing is the fundraising and being able to contribute $1,000 to Children's First.
Oh, that is wonderful. So you are really a service club or
Yes.
service group rather than just a social coffee and baking cookies group.
That's right.
Oh.
And that's because that's the kind of people Nottingham is they care about everybody, each other and everybody else. And going back to this being so supportive to each other, I was telling the lady, we talked last night, and I was telling one of the things that really, really impressed me. I was not here when they had the first flooding in Nottingham, but I was in, that was 89,
89.
when they had the last flood. I was not flooded, but I was near the area that was. And before Red Cross, before anybody got there, people in Nottingham had set up a stand for food, for blankets, whatever. But they were there first before anybody else.
Oh, that is wonderful.
And that's great.
That's great. All right, let's get to Dorothy Cross. Dorothy, a very special young lady, sitting in the middle of a meeting when we were talking about a Texas land grant that some gentleman had presented to Grand Prairie. And Dorothy said, excuse me for just a moment, I believe I have one of those. And she ran next door and bless everything. Runnels County, a wonderful part of Texas in the past, in about the 1881st year of our Lord, a wonderful land grant, and the copy of that we have before us, and we hope that our camera person can pick up a real wonderful copy of that beautiful land grant. And while they're doing that, we'd like for you to tell us just a little bit about your reaction when you saw another land grant. What prompted Dorothy Cross to give to the city of Grand Prairie another wonderful document?
Well, you were speaking at one of our Nottingham neighbors' meeting on the Historical Society. And I had a land grant at home, which I'd found among my parents' papers. And it had no name that was recognizable to me. And Runnels County was not recognizable to me. And I asked my husband where Runnels County was, and he didn't know either. But he said, we'll look it up someday. And that was the last I heard of Runnels County until your presentation at our Nottingham neighbors. And when you said that you were so excited over a land grant that had been given you in Runnels County, I said, that rings a bell. I have one of those. And if you would like to have it, I'd be glad for you to have it for the Historical Society.
And before the meeting was over, you left the meeting, you, I guess, next door,
Well, it's a few houses
a few
up.
houses down the way, and brought back a land grant. And this is so wonderful. And the city of Grand Prairie, the Historical Commission, the historical organization will treasure that for many, many years to come. And the boys and girls that come and visit our museum in Grand Prairie will see something from the past that is so elegantly framed. And we're just so delighted that you helped salute the birthday of Grand Prairie, honoring your Nottingham neighbors.
Thank you. Very happy to do it.
And while we're talking with you, I believe we have a show and tell. Can we brag on you for just a little?
Yes,
Oh,
you certainly can.
let's do. Let's have this beautiful piece of work with a blue ribbon, I believe, from the State Fair of Texas. Let's show and tell that for a moment, and tell us about it, would you, Dorothy?
I painted this bowl. It's called a George Washington bowl, and I copied it from a picture in the Smithsonian Magazine.
Yes.
The original of this bowl is in the First Lady's room at the Washington Institute,
Oh,
a
yes.
Smithsonian Institute. And so from the picture in the magazine, I copied and painted this bowl, this George Washington bowl, and it took me 6 months,
Yes.
and I donated it to Nottingham neighbors because we were having a Las Vegas night and an auction following the games.
Yes.
And so I donated it for auction for charity. Our Las Vegas night was one of the many ways we used to raise monies for charities. And the Gary Simerson family bought this bowl. They were the high bidder that night. And following that evening, in 1984, I entered this bowl in the State Fair of Texas. and took first place, blue ribbon.
Oh, let's show and tell that beautiful ribbon.
For,
Isn't that exciting?
for the premium of its class, first prize for its class, and the senior citizen part of the hand-painted china.
That is wonderful. And Nottingham Neighbors, of course, the recipient of
Right.
such a worthy, worthy gift. And yes, very
We
talented.
have many talented ladies, artists and writers, and many, I would be afraid to start trying to name the names because I know I would leave someone out.
All right, we're going to get back with you in a few minutes and let you tell us the amounts of monies that probably you all have raised. I'm going to get to our incoming president, but before I do, I need to get back with Mickey Turner. Mickey, as one of the probably original founders of the Nottingham Neighbors, coming into the presidency probably second in line or third in line. During these years, what has impressed you the most about Nottingham Neighbors, and what was the most outstanding thing or project that has happened during your lifetime in working with that group?
I think our projects are all outstanding, Ruthie, in raising money for our charities, but we'll let Dorothy tell you about that. The thing I think that has omitted here, we talk about the work that we do together, and we neglect to say the fun we have together.
That's great.
And we do play together. We have gourmet clubs. I don't know how many people are active or still active, but we've had tennis clubs, bridge clubs. You know, our groups get together and play. And we've had Christmas balls, Valentine balls. If someone is in need, we're there to help them. We have an Easter parade, and I think we had, how many did we have this year? It must have been 200 or 300 children.
How wonderful.
And then we have a Halloween parade, and prizes are given, and we have floats, and we're just very active neighborhood. And we've had babysitting clubs. I don't think this is going on right now, but it's something every so often we give thought to and start encouraging them to do again, and helping the younger people organize their little groups. So it isn't just work, Ruthie. It's fun too.
Good, that's wonderful.
And the other thing is the safety. This would impress you, I know, with today's crime and the fear that we have for our children that are going to school and even playing out in the yard now. But we do watch. We watch each other. And there have been times when we would call the neighborhood and people would turn on their lights. If someone's husband traveled, they could call other people and say, my husband's going to be out of town. And numbers were left. So we would encourage anyone to start working with a group and getting themselves organized, because they're missing a lot if they don't.
That's wonderful. All right, Madam Incoming President Pauline Alvis, welcome to the show, Madam President. And we know that you're excited about your tenure. Let's look out into your camera and let's talk a little bit about maybe what you forecast for the year to come, or just tell us maybe a little bit about under Mrs. Perry's direction, how excited it was to be able to sit at her feet and learn how to be the president of the world in Nottingham.
That's right. She's been a marvelous president, as an example. Well, of course, one of the things that we want to do is to continue to look towards incorporating all of our members in our neighborhood. We want to involve them all, the older members, the younger members, and everyone in between. And of course, we have a new party for newcomers in the fall.
How wonderful.
And newcomers coffee in September. And then, of course, we have things all during the year. And we will continue those same things that have become traditions in Nottingham. But we also are progressive, and we want to look forward to doing other things. One of the projects that Mrs. Perry and her board have initiated is a recycling program for our neighborhood. And so we would like to see it come to fruition and be finished and possibly get into doing this in our neighborhood this year. And another thing, we just want to be a warm, welcome community as a part of Grand Prairie.
Would you like to name drop some of your officers that are going to be working with you, if there are any others other than the ladies sitting here at the desk today?
Oh yes, we have a list of about 23
How
officers
wonderful.
and standing committee chairmen who will be serving many areas during the year, from getting acquainted to projecting out and Christmas lighting. Jane Martin is going to be our chairman for that. Marla Stout is our street coordinator, where we pick up along one of the streets in our neighborhood, and she
How
has
great.
originated that and continues with it. We also have a membership chairman that will be, Marlis will do that, and we contact all of the new members who move into our neighborhood, inviting them to come to the first meeting and to join the club, and Marlis will be heading that up. Now we have, I can't think, just a minute, Barbara Young.
Yes.
And Dorothy Cross will be our program committee, and we have marvelous programs. Sometimes we meet in our home, sometimes we venture out of the neighborhood into other areas for things that we like to look at, shopping or programs of other kinds, and we just have quite a varied group of programs, and Dorothy and Barbara will be heading that up.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Oh, yes. Yes, we did get Ruthie through our program membership chairman.
And I know you're looking forward to a great year.
Yes, we are.
They have all promised that they're going to help aid and abet you.
Right, yes.
That's good. All right, let's get back to Dorothy Cross again, because she has a lot of the records about some of the good things that you have done philanthropically. And why don't you look out into your camera and let's talk about those things, Dorothy.
All right. Through the last approximately 20 years, Nottingham Neighbors have held several fundraising charity projects. And we've done everything from bazaars and garage sales to tastings, casino nights, and spaghetti suppers and chili suppers. And these monies that we have collected through the years have been donated to several Grand Prairie and local recipients. They include DFW Hospital, Children First Counseling Center, Brighter Tomorrows, Cancer Society of Tarrant County, Multiple Sclerosis Rehabilitation of Arlington, School for Exceptional Children, United Charities of Grand Prairie Retarded Training Center and Daycare Center, Grand Prairie Association for Retarded Citizens, the Grand Prairie Public Schools Cerebral Palsy Unit, Grand Prairie Public Schools Shady Grove Career Development Center, the Grand Prairie Family Outreach, the Dallas-Fort Worth Drug Abuse Center, Teen Court, and several donations to the Grand Prairie and Lamar High Schools for their drug-free after-prom graduation parties. The amounts donated to these charities total in excess of $30,000, and we're so proud and happy about that.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yes.
Oh, I know that is so meaningful to you. And what probably some of our viewing audience will not realize is that you are located primarily in Tarrant County portion of Grand Prairie, Texas.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And that's very unusual, because your children do not go to the Grand Prairie ISD schools, but they go to the Arlington ISD schools. Mm-hmm. And that makes you unique in that you are cloistered in your own little neighborhood. You're part of Tarrant County, and yet you're part of the special part of Grand Prairie, Texas.
Right.
I think that's wonderful. All right, let's get back down to Miss Betty now. Betty, how long have you lived in the Nottingham area? And tell us just a little bit about the countryside. Anything besides the flooding that you would like to talk about?
Well, my husband and I moved to Grand Prairie from Irving, and we came in '82. This was right after my husband became ill. Mm-hmm. And the house we bought from a colleague of my husband's who was transferred. And we used to visit, and I just love, and I still love the drive from Carrier down West Cliff down into our neighborhood.
Yes.
It's shady, it's peaceful, it's beautiful, and it's serene. And
Yes.
this is always such a lift for me to come down and just drive down this road. And I still enjoy taking my walks. And incidentally, I don't know, we were talking earlier about the crime, but the Nottingham area, I have no qualms at 10 o'clock at night taking my walk and have no fear, and I'll be by myself. I've never run into any problems, and I don't think anybody else has either. But it's really reassuring to know that you can do that today.
Still walking your neighborhood.
Right. And so I was not involved in Nottingham Neighbors, I guess, for several years, at least 4 years, simply because of my husband's disability and his therapy and this sort of thing. But I always knew they were there. We'd already met some of the people in the neighborhood, and I love the neighborhood I came from in Irving. It was great. But I never had this feeling after being in in that neighborhood for years and years that, hey, I'm home, and it felt like coming home.
And now you are.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
Mickey, I need to talk with you. When did you come to Grand Prairie, and tell us a little bit about what brought you and your wonderful husband and your family to Grand Prairie? And I know your kids are still here.
Yes, they are. And we moved here in 1969, January.
Your husband's past president of the chamber.
That's correct, yes. We've enjoyed Grand Prairie a lot, being active in the Women's Club and getting acquainted with all these wonderful people. It's really become home. Max was transferred down from Oklahoma, but we're original Texans, and it was great to come back home. We felt like this is where we belonged. But really, Ruthie, and buying in our neighborhood was an accident. We had friends that had moved from Oklahoma City to Grand Prairie, and they lived across the street from Jackson Junior High School. And in visiting with them, they said, you just must see these new houses. And they wanted us in this area. And I think it was Kitty Morris that lived across the street from them, and Kitty took us out to see this area. And I told the ladies last night that when we left, we bought the house. We saw a house, bought it, and I was going back to the city. And as we left, I said, go back and get our money. I'll never find this place again. But we did, and have never been sorry. It's been a wonderful place to raise our children, even though they were bused to Arlington.
Yes. All right. Let's get to Dorothy. We're winding down toward the end of our 30 minutes. Can you believe that? But what brought Dorothy Cross to Grand Prairie, Texas?
We were living in Richardson at the time, and my parents and elderly brother were in Fort Worth. And I was spending a lot of time on the road running back and forth. So I decided, Jack worked in Dallas, so we decided we'd just try to move halfway between. And we were so lucky that the neighborhood we selected was Nottingham. It has just been a wonderful location, and I've met some wonderful friends here.
And it's perfect, nearly, isn't it?
Yes, of course it is.
Wonderful. All right, let's get to Pauline. Pauline, about your tenure in Grand Prairie, Texas, we'd like for you to bring us up to date. All of the ladies so far have mentioned their husbands, and we need to name drop a little bit before the end of this wonderful historical bout that we have here, because we want to salute to the fellas that allow you all to come and be on this television show.
Yes, my husband was employed here at LTV, and we moved here for that purpose. And we have really enjoyed living in Grand Prairie. In fact, we moved away to Tyler and was there for a few years, and then we chose to come back. And so we feel like Grand Prairie has been a big part of our life.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's a good testimonial. All right, now, as the outgoing president, we want to extend an invitation to anyone that may be listening to this show that lives in Nottingham And if they don't know where Nottingham is, we need to leave a magic telephone number for those that might wish to get on the list for the philanthropic things that you do. And Betty, would you do us that honor? Would you look out into your camera and tell them how to get in touch with Nottingham Neighbors in the event they want to get on your magic list to receive funds as an organization, and do us a good sell for Nottingham Neighbors?
Helps, doesn't it? Well, of course, we always are looking for charities that have a real need and that can use our help. If there's anyone who has a need, please you can contact me, Betty Prairie, at 641-6227, and I'm sure Pauline.
Sure.
Give them your phone number.
Oh, all right.
You got it.
Yes, my number is 647-4325, and we would be glad to entertain any proposals that you would like to make, and we'll be choosing our charity during the summer, and it will be announced at our September meeting. So please get your letters or your phone calls in to us.
That's wonderful. And we just have all sorts of wonderful, wonderful yearbooks here, and we have about 1 minute left on this interview. Who's going to read a list of the past presidents, that we have a listing of the past presidents in your yearbook? And I think that would be such a wonderful salute to leave with those, to know that they have contributed so wonderfully by being a great part. And we're going to recognize incoming President Pauline Alvis.
Thank you. Well, the first president in '68 was Joyce Whitus, followed by Patsy Lewis and Esther Aguirre, Jane Martin, and of course Emmy Thompson, and our own Mickey Turner. Then Clell Butler, Carol Barnes, Mike Huey, Kay Andrew, Donna LaBeatty, Susan Ramsey, Susan Wren.
We're down to Susan Wren, and we're out of time, but there are more to come on our next interview. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you, Dorothy, for your lovely, wonderful gift to the city of Grand Prairie.
Happy that you're enjoying it.
And this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you that history is as we live and do in Grand Prairie, Texas, and especially in the Nottingham area of Grand Prairie. Thank you all.
Thank you.